day everyone, I'm Tom and I'll be driving this session today.
Hi everyone, my name is Ulrich. I'll be the navigator of the session.
Cool. I'm gonna talk about lesson 27, accessing your API from your application. So we touched on creating an API namespace, building a UI model to fetch data asynchronously, connecting models with MongoDB methods. So let's touch on that. So I think firstly namespacing, what that is basically. If I go to my API route, we basically have our API route set here and API endpoints. Then if I go to my index.js, this is like my main API route. It's basically all the other API routes are mounted to this API, right? Endpoint. So you can see here /API, and it's referring to all of these APIs, basically. So let's explain how this latest courses button works and gives us all the latest courses in the front end. So basically when the user clicks latest courses, right, and it shows all of this, that basically sends a GET request to API courses. So when I was talking about namespaces, this basically refers to API courses because here's API, which is our this is where we mount our API routes specifically under /API. So the GET request is made to API courses, right? As soon as that GET request is made to this index method is called, right? And this index method, what it does is it basically fetches all the courses that we need to show and display here in the front end, as you can see. So let's look at this index method in courses controller. So here's our index method. This uses the find function basically to basically find all the users in the database, and then there's a promise, then a catch. In this then promise, we have an arrow function with courses as a parameter. Courses basically stores the user's data, or the data that we found of all the courses, right? It stores that as an argument in courses. Then courses are stored in this variable over here, right? So it fetches all that data basically by finding it using that find method. Then after that, let's see, filter users courses is called, right? So in filters users, basically what that does is it filters based on the user. So over here, this function is called afterwards. So it filters everything out and then it brings back it filters based on the specific user who has those courses basically, and it shows all those courses. Then over here, respond JSON is called as well when that GET request is made, and respond JSON basically sends back JSON with course data. So it sends back JSON formed data basically. So over here, respond JSON, as a response, it will send back the data to the front end. So basically, like, all that data will be shown as soon as we click here. Then JavaScript receives this data and updates the modal UI to show the title, right? And the description as well as this join button over here. So then modal becomes visible with latest causes filled in dynamically. So basically what modal basically is in our views we have causes modal over here, and as you can see, that's what's shown in the front end, latest causes, and it shows a list of all those latest causes basically. And let's see, so all those latest causes are basically shown here in the front end over here, specifically because data was basically injected into this HTML, right? The data that's injected is basically our what's this, JSON data that we get. So if I say API causes, all this data over here, right, is basically injected in our model, and then it's shown in the front end when that GET request is made to the specific API endpoint, right? And then it shows here all of this over here. Then how the API is working in the code. So basically the API routes are basically like set in our API routes.js, as you can see here, and it's mounted at, as I was explaining, it's mounted over here, right? So yeah, so these APIs are used for fetching data asynchronously. So an asynchronous order was used in order to fetch all of this data and show it in the front end, and the response is JSON data used by front end to update UI dynamically. So yeah, that's basically how that works, and that's a summary of lesson 27.